Hello, welcome to episode 173 of the Epic Film Challenge 2, 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die, the Battle of San Pietro from 1945. Another documentary, not too dissimilar from the last one I talked about. It's only half an hour long, directed by John Huston, who was a great director of films, and he put together this propaganda film that covers a World War II battle in Italy, around the town city of San Pietro, that's in this valley surrounded by mountains, lots of Germans, you know, alongside the mountains and inside the city itself, and it's about the Americans coming in to kind of liberate the town, basically. It's narrated with a very kind of patriotic voiceover by I'm not sure who, actually, an American, very strong American accent. I'm not sure if it was a guy who was there at the battle or if it was just an actor, I don't know, but basically he's narrating the what's going on, the setup to the battle, what happens during the battle and what happened after the battle. We get a lot of shots of the map, which I became very accustomed to over the half an hour running time of the various encampments and the various regiments and where they were coming from, where they were heading to. There's lots of arrows on the map. They've got a pen kind of showing you the direction of the troops and everything. And then we get this incredible footage of the foot soldiers marching their way towards the enemy camps. Now, of course, again, as I'm accustomed to at this point, a lot of it was staged, which really takes away some of the power of it, I feel. Although there is a lot of footage in there of dead soldiers, and thankfully none with their heads blown open or anything ridiculous like that. But nevertheless, a lot of men being carried away and wrapped up and then subsequently buried and so on. The film really highlights just how fruitless it can be sometimes, most of the time, all the time, war. After the battle's over and they've won, they've liberated the Italians there, but at what cost? Over 1,000 lives lost, and what does it really mean at the end of it? And the director, John Huston, said, if I was ever to make a pro-war film, I'd have someone shoot me. So it was meant to be a propaganda film, but they wouldn't release it because during World War II they felt like it would actually lower morale to see that the people die, and that you're probably gonna end up 6 feet under if you go to these battles and things. So they wait until after World War II was over before they publicly showed this and screened it and things like that. Now, I'm unsure how to feel about it because of the staged elements of it, but undeniably it's some great footage and it gets you into the thing. And that's the thing, it can be, it's you have to judge it on a case-by-case basis when it comes to documentaries and staged scenes. And they even have a title card at the end of the film that does say that all this footage was shot there, but we did stage some of the scenes for continuity and so on. So they're at least a bit more upfront about it. There is a horrific moment when the Italians come out of hiding and they're coming back to their homes that's been blown up, and there's this guy who is just beside himself, and you soon find out why when the Americans dig his wife's body out of the rubble and he reaches down to her, and it's heartbreaking. It's heart-shattering, and I do feel like the film attempts to gloss over some of that consequence a little bit, and it's like, all the children easily move on, and by tomorrow this will all be forgotten for them, and they're smiling and laughing, and that undeniably great footage of these kids kind of looking very happy, but everything will be alright tomorrow. I don't think so, and it's like, oh, now because the beginning of the film opens up with this shot of the valley, and it's just like blackened trees and just mud, and it's like, this is a valley where fruit grows and it's very prosperous, but that was before the battle, and and at the end of the film it's like, one valley over, the fields are green, and the crops are growing again, and yeah, it gets a little bit preachy with that kind of, we came in and we made everything right again. It's not as simple as that, but I do think it's a pretty interesting war documentary, I would love to know which parts were real, because there were so many shots in it that I thought, holy shit, we're in the middle of the battle here. But it was kind of a bit of a letdown when I found out it was staged stuff. But again, I don't know the extent of that. Either way, I thought it was a very impactful film, even if it did try a little too hard to kind of almost romanticize it in a way, I do feel. And I do have a problem with that, because it's hard to really go into. I hate war. I absolutely hate everything about it, and I'm sure most people do. I'm sure there are people who don't hate it as much as I do and feel like it's a necessity and needs to happen. And I mean, ultimately it has, you know, needed to happen, because it's got to that point, you know, where it's so tragic to me. And I could go far off on it. I go really way off on war, because it's just, I really think about it a lot, and just how pointless and fruitless and pathetic it is that we have let ourselves slip this far, that wars even happened. But I mean, they've been happening since the beginning of time. It's it's unavoidable. It's inescapable. And you know, I feel for the. I mean, you see the shots of the soldiers, you know, kind of joking around and laughing and stuff, and it's just like, those guys could have had great lives. You know, they could have had great lives, and had happy families, and maybe some of them did. But you know, something like that, it changes you. And you know, this film, I think, is a film you should see before you die, because it very much just highlights the horror of war in a lot of ways, and lots of films do that. Of course, this isn't like an exception or anything, but it is one of the stronger kind of war films that I've seen. Being a documentary and having some of that footage, and again, just focusing on, you know, how much was lost and for what gain, you know. And it just, yeah, very tragic film, but one I think worth seeing. So I'll leave it at that. I didn't love the film, but I think that it's quite an important one. And even if it is a propaganda film, there's a lot of elements in it that help towards educating people and perhaps pushing them to look more into the history of war and things like that. So for that, I think that it's worthwhile. But yeah, definitely not one that was highly enjoyable, but necessary, I think. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.